Welcome back. In this video, I will show you how to enable single sign-on for an application added from the gallery. Enabling single sign-on consists on these common 5 steps in the Azure AD management portal. First, select and add your application from AD Gallery. Second, configure user and groups assignments to specify who has access to the application. Third, set up single sign-on on Azure AD using the information provided by the service provider. Then, set up single sign-on on the application side using the metadata from Azure AD. Finally, test single sign-on to verify everything is working as expected. In this demo, I will show you how to perform these steps to configure SAML-based single sign-on using Sandisk as the application. I'm here in Azure Active Directory in the All Application page, logged as an administrator. To enable single sign-on for Sandisk, I need to add the application from the Azure AD Gallery. I will look for Sandisk in the gallery, and then I will add it. I have already added this application into my directory, so I will look for this app into the All Application list. I will access the application. Now, I'm going to assign users to this application. So I'm going to click on User and Groups. To add a user, I'm going to click on Add User. Then, using this control, I'm going to select my user. I select the user and assign it to the application. I can see that this Timothy user was assigned to the application and now will have access to it. Now, let's configure single sign-on. I'm going to click on Single Sign-On tab. Then the UI shows me the steps required to configure single sign-on. Also, for all gallery applications, Azure AD provides a step-by-step tutorial that you can follow. If you have any feedback for that tutorial, or if following the instructions it didn't work, you can leave a comment and we will make sure we fix it, either in the product or in the documentation. So first, let's take a look to the basic SAML configuration. This is the information that you will obtain from the service provider, in this case Sandisk, with what are the URLs required to configure on your identity provider, so Azure AD. For Sandisk, we are only required to configure sign-on URL, which is the URL where your end user is going to go to log in, and the identifier, which is the unique identifier used by Azure AD. The second step is the user attributes and claims. In this section, you can add any type of user information that you want to share with the application. And the name identifier. This is a unique value that identifies your user. For Sandisk, they don't require any specific claim, so we don't have to add anyone. The third is the SAML sign-in certificate. Here, we need to verify that we have an active certificate. And also, you can download the certificate for step 4 and configure Sandisk. For now, I'm just going to look at this active. I can create a new certificate by clicking on New Certificate, or import my own certificate by clicking on Import Certificate. Step 4, it's set up Sandisk. I have my apps extension installed, and because I have that extension installed, I can do one-click single sign-on on Sandisk. It means by using my App Secure Sign-in browser extensions, Azure AD can automatically configure Sandisk without me having to go and figure out the steps required to configure Sandisk. So I'm going to click on Setup Sandisk. That's going to take me to the Sandisk website. I'm going to input my credentials. I get prompt to verify that I will allow Azure Active Directory to configure Sandisk for me. I click yes. Then Azure Active Directory will configure Sandisk, will input all the required information, and will ask me to save. I click Save. And now I'm going to be redirected back to Azure AD as the configuration has completed. Without this feature, what you will usually do is you gather the certificate information in step 3 and the configuration URLs to configure Sandisk. Now, in step 5, we're going to test if the single sign-on works. Because I'm installing also my App Secure extension, so I can automate these steps too. So I'm going to try to sign in as the current user. I pick my user. Now this is the login page again. I'm going to use I'm an agent since this is a service provider initiated single sign-on. Now what I see is that Azure AD has logged me into Sandisk and has issued a token. By using the extension, I'm able to review what's the token and the claims sent to the application, what's the certificate. I can download the sum of requests and sum of response, and also I can provide feedback. How to troubleshoot single sign-on. So I've shown you the happy path for configuring single sign-on, but now I'm going to show you what if you have problems, why you get a sign-in error. In this demo, I will show you how to use the testing experience to troubleshoot sign-in errors during single sign-on. So I'm back to Sandisk, and I have made a change to the identifier so we can see how to solve this type of issues of misconfiguring an application. So I'm going back to step 5, click on Test, trying to sign in as the current user. I click I'm an agent, and then we can see that we got an error back from the application. The error says that the identifier is mismatched or missing. The resolution is updating with this identifier. Because I'm using this extension, Azure AD is able to capture the sum of requests and identify what's the real identifier. And by using the extension, you can also click on Fix It, and that will automatically apply the required changes to solve that problem. Like this scenario, we have many other scenarios that we have included that will help you to troubleshoot your issues. If the scenario that you have, it's not being solved by the extension, you can leave a comment on this section, and we will make sure to add that scenario into the tool. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next video, where Jivan will discuss how to roll out single sign-on to end users.